Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rare Book Room. My name is Irini, and I help direct events here at the Strand. For a little bit of history, the Strand was founded in 1927 by Benjamin Bass over on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Stretching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled until from 48 bookstores until after 93 years, the Strand is the sole survivor, now run by third-generation owner Nancy Bass Wyden. Under Nancy, the Strand is not only surviving, but an increasingly competitive and unsure environment, but it is thriving. The Strand continues to famously hold over 18 miles of used, new, and rare books, and now hosts nearly 400 events a year. In large part, this is thanks to all of you. Without our loyal community of book lovers, we wouldn't be here today. Tonight, I'm excited to welcome Lee Camp and his new book, Bullet Points and Punchlines, the most important commentary ever written on the epic American tragicomedy. Lee is an American comedian, writer, activist, and host and co-creator of the hit comedy news show Redacted Tonight. I'm doing great. Redacted Tonight with Lee Camp and Redacted Tonight VP on RT America. He's a former headline writer for The Onion and a former staff humor writer for The Huffington Post. He's also the creator and host of the web show Moment of Clarity. His other books include Moment of Clarity, which you will have for sale tonight? Yeah. Cool. He will have that for sale tonight at this table. Fun fact. Keep that in mind for later. And his 2018 stand-up comedy special, Not Allowed on American TV, has received rave reviews. He's also the co-host of the weekly podcast Common Censored with Eleanor Goldfield. I couldn't be more excited to introduce him and Bullet Points and Punchlines to the Strand, so please help me in welcoming Lee Camp to the Strand.
You good? I yelled so loud I wasn't sure whether it was on or not. It is not on. Now it's on. All right, there we go. Thanks to the Strand. Give the Strand a round of applause for having this here, for being willing. I didn't know all this stuff was going to be set up here. They don't realize how much I flail, and I can't deal with this. The setup, but all right. Wow, I'm glad you all made it out. This is awesome. This is great. First things first, if you have coronavirus, please leave. Please set fire to yourself. We got one. Set fire to yourself outside. Thank you very much. No, come on back. I think he really left. All right. I had no idea that would work. All right. Either that or he's a huge fan of coronavirus and he's like, if it's going to be that kind of show, I'm out of here. No, this is exciting. So for those of you wondering what's coming, what I'm going to do here, some of you, I think, came because you're thinking, oh, stand-up comedy show, and so you came for the stand-up comedy. Some of you came thinking, oh, I want to hear him talk about this new book. So I'm going to do like half and half and disappoint both sides. So it'll be, I'm going to do half stand-up, then we'll get to the book, and then we'll do a Q&A. We'll bring a special guest up as well. So a little bit of everything, To keep talking about the day's news, oh, by the way, I picked up your local paper here, the New York Times. I don't, some small village paper you guys put out. I don't know what it is. But don't stop worrying about the coronavirus because I heard Trump speak today, and he said it's going to be the best pandemic ever. So it's going to be a perfect pandemic, he said. So we are cool. It's good to go. By the way, for after the show, I'm not doing handshakes, all right? I've just started doing, everybody does punch to the balls. That's it, all right? Or vag, punch to the balls or vag, okay? If anybody was offended by that, there's going to be a bumpy show for you. Let's see, cover of the New York Times. Syrians whose only choice is to wait for death. So that's what they're covering. No mention in the article that our sanctions against Syria are crushing them, are killing people on a daily basis, make it tough for them to get medication and gasoline and food. No mention of that, but they'll tell you how, something that fits the propaganda of the New York Times. Those are the suffering ones that are bad. Other suffering, totally cool, totally good. The New York Times, they never think about the past of what went down or how they helped set it up. They'll spend years just saying, hey, everybody should get a hammer and start clubbing people over the head. They'll manufacturing consent for war, and then they'll do an article a year later where they're like, apparently hammer deaths are on the rise. We don't know why that is. Cover the art section. There's a new 4-part documentary about Hillary Clinton that looks past it. It's about time we learned something about Hillary Clinton. I am sick of our media ignoring her, never telling us about Hillary. It says, the headline is, "A warrior weighed down by her armor." I would have thought it'd be a warrior weighed down by her corruption, but no, it's the armor that really got to her. This is a little article on murder-for-hire websites. And at first when I read that, I was like, holy shit, there's murder-for-hire websites? And then I was like, oh, of course, like Raytheon has a website, and like General Dynamics has a website, Boeing has a website. They all have websites. How dumb am I to be shocked by this? This is the business section. When robots lay on the charm. As automation grows in the retail industry, companies are giving their machines human-like features in order to make them liked and not feared by the workers. And this specific one is a vacuum that cleans up everything in the grocery stores and stuff, a robot, and they put a large pair of googly eyes on it. So have no fear, folks. Dystopia will come with googly eyes, okay? If you thought it was going to be uncomfortable, you will be fucked with googly eyes. They put a strap on the front of the vacuum, too, so. You can't laugh and seem unhappy about it at the same time. You gotta pick a side. Like, no, that was wrong. That was unacceptable. The Boy Scouts' original Rockwell works. This is Wall Street Journal. No, this is USA Today. Sorry, this is the newspaper for children. The Boy Scouts' original Rockwell works could be sold off. The original Rockwell paintings could be sold off. And they're covering it almost as if, oh man, that's really sad. And you're like, to pay their victims, to pay the victims of the Boy Scouts. There's been the Boy Scouts' own records. So 12,000 sexual assaults over the past many years. That's their own internal studies, and that's only the people that came forward. And yet, why are they still operating? Why is that still a thing? All right, how many thousands of kids have to be sexually assaulted before an organization is no more, is gone? I would argue it should be 1,000 kids. That is it. It's fucked up. It's like. And I went to their website. They declared bankruptcy, so they didn't have to pay the victims, so they won't have to pay the victims. But they do still operate, and they're still recruiting. They still go around, and it should at least be like mandatory that when they're talking to parents, trying to convince them to send their kids to Boy Scouts, they should be told, they should be informed of the reality, and then they can make an informed decision as a parent, right? They should be told, hey, you can, your kid would like to join the Boy Scouts. There's been 12,000 sexual assaults, so could get sexually assaulted. Also, though, he could learn how to whittle. Weigh your options, right? What is the model of the boy? It made sense if there weren't sexual assaults. All right, fine. Let's teach a kid leadership and making a fire or whatever the fuck. But now that this is going on, it's like dressing your kid up in a little out uniform and sending him off to a lonely middle-aged man who wants to have a bunch of little kids around him is not a sustainable business model. It's not. Why does it exist? I went to the website to make sure they're still operating, and it's still going, and it says right there across the front, Boy Scouts, I swear to God, a hands-on experience. No. Bad Boy Scouts. That should say a very hands-off experience. We're nowhere near your kids. Some of you need a chaser after that one. That was... All right. This is for people not liking the other stuff. Have you ever noticed the words unicorn and acorn both mean one corn? That may amaze you, but that also means one corner. Some of you take your time on these. Take time on these. That's all right. We'll leave the light on for you. Yeah, the Boy Scouts thing, and then of course there's the church scandal that just keeps going and going and going. And they there was a Pennsylvania grand jury report that found thousands of kids. Just in Pennsylvania, 300 priests, and that's just, again, the ones that came forward. It's like, how are there not just commercials running nonstop on our television warning parents, hey, parents, sit your kids down, talk to them, say, hey, listen, when you're walking to school, if you're afraid you might accidentally walk through a church, walk around, go out through the junkyard, go through the dark alley where those guys do the heroin, avoid the church at all costs. If you're still running late, get a ride with that guy with the windowless van. Statistically speaking, it's still safer. I mean, it doesn't normally. If there's something that's causing harm to people in our society, we announce it. We talk about it. Like, what was it? The 70s and up to the 70s, the early 80s, they had refrigerators where they had clicking handles on the outside, and they found out that people would throw out the fridge, and it would be out on the road. Some kid would get into it, playing hide and go seek or something, and it locks. And then a couple of times, kids died in there, and so they started putting stickers on all the fridges and doing ads on the TV, like, hey, when you're throwing out your fridge, break the handle off the front of the fridge so that kids can't get in there. So how long is it until we start having ads that say, hey, if there's a church in your neighborhood, break the handle off the front of the church so that kids can't wander in there. So, yeah. You seem very unhappy, sir. You all right? Yeah. Getting the American Idol judge vibe from you. All right, so we got this goddamn election that's been going on for approximately 32 years, and it's going exactly how we thought it'd go. It's just being fucking stolen all over again in the exact same way. I love how it's really identical, and it's very similar. Really is identical. In California, they just handed out provisional ballots like they're, free condoms at a high school. Just everybody, take all you want. Here you go. Because they know provisional ballots, if they're counted, won't be counted for months, or weeks at the minimum. So it's not going to impact the news cycle. So they knew what they were doing. They're just giving out provisional ballots everywhere. Provisional ballot is like, it's like you might as well vote by, farting into a dream catcher. It has the same effect. And then in Massachusetts, guess what? The exit polls in Massachusetts varied by roughly 8%. The exit polls were different, which, by the way, over 2% is supposed to signal fraud, but we don't do that here. So is it roughly 8%? You know what it was last time around, 2016, how much the exit polls varied from the machine results? Roughly 8%. And we were like, sounds good to us. Let's just keep doing it. And all of the time, the exit polls vary from the machine results. They always go towards the establishment. There is practically never an example where the exit polls have varied the opposite direction. Does that signal anything to anyone? No. Why should it? Fuck it. Sorry, not all of this is funny. It's just I just need to get it off my chest. I brought you down, didn't I? I'm sorry. I have a friend who's pregnant, and she said, I can feel him kicking. He's going to be a soccer player. I was like, no, he's going to be a dick. He's already kicking pregnant women. It's okay to laugh out loud. I see some of you vibrating silently in your seats, which I know it is a rare books room, so you're like, we might harm the literature. And of course, they purged tons of voters before we even got around to this point. They, in Ohio, one way they do it is they send out these postcards. They did this in California too. Send out these postcards to everybody, and they say, "Hey, the postcard says we think this is your address. If it is, and you'd like to keep voting, send this back to us and let us know. Otherwise, we're purging you from the voting rolls." Now, I don't know. I know that in California, of students who got those cards, 5% sent them back, because students move a lot, and so what's that do? That purges likely Bernie voters. In Ohio, they did the same thing. Supreme Court ruled they could do it, and they sent out 1.2 million postcards. Of those, they purged 1 million people. Because people don't return postcards. If I get a postcard, I assume it's covered in anthrax, all right? That's step one, then I put on a hazmat suit, and then I, call a hotline, and then I burn it, and if it burns like a bluish-green flame, that means it was legit. But I'll tell you what I don't do, send it back. I get a postcard, I'm like, oh yeah, the send back, I know this scam, right. Yeah, I know how it is. I send this back 2 years later, some woman I've never heard of says that she's pregnant with my child. I know how this works. Not falling for the postcard gambit. So it's just, I don't know, the election drives me nuts. And then, of course, there's the 90% of things that wouldn't change no matter who you put in the White House. So the military-industrial complex just continues going, just bombing endlessly. Bombs dropped almost every 12 minutes. And under Obama dropped 26,000 his final year in office. Now, it's the military. It's not Obama pushing the button, right? But it shows that the military is just running gloves off. It doesn't matter. Obama, Trump, it didn't change things. And then we have our mainstream media, which has to create the manufacturing consent propaganda so that we all allow this and continue to sit back and just watch it happen, or really never even notice that it's happening. And so we're told to hate certain people. We gotta hate Iranians or hate Venezuelans, and it's amazing when it works and you talk to people that are just like, oh, they're socialists. I hate Venezuelans. We need to bomb Venezuela because they're socialists, or Cuba. I hate Cubans because even if you despise socialism, like in your core, in your heart, oh, socialism! Still, what do they have to do with your life? Let them do whatever the fuck they want. That's their country. It's like hating them. That'd be like hating genital piercing so much that just knowing they're out there somewhere has ruined your marriage. What's it got to do with your life? And then there's the people who say, well, I just want to help the Cuban people, the poor Cuban people. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. That's where your empathy lies, really. We're all wearing clothes made by children. To get the metals in our phones, they lower kids into the center of the earth on a rope made out of bark, just so your battery can last 10 minutes longer. We vacation in countries where they execute people for being gay, but your empathy has been reserved for the poor people of Cuba who are just drowning under a flood of health care. That's what you're really worried about. I feel so bad for them with their guaranteed employment and their lack of homelessness. You guys are done with the joke. You are done with the joke. New York crowds do not fuck around. Like, ah! Move it along, clown. I got a musician in the subway I need to see in like 10 minutes, all right? So let's pick it up. Really, the manufacturing consent for war keeps going. The amount of money dumped into military, I know you all know this, but the amount of money is insane. It's just the amount of money that's approved, not to mention the amount of money that's secretive or hidden or unaccounted for. I'm going to talk more about that when I get to the book part. But it's incredible. And yet when people want to do anything positive for our country, want to give people health health care, want to fix our infrastructure, want to fix our public schools, want to do anything positive, even remotely, other than war, everyone says, how are you going to pay for that? Where's the money going to come from? Well, are you going to raise my taxes? Where's the money going to come from? You never hear that when they say we have to go to war with Syria. I never heard one person go, how are you going to pay for that? I know we got to send all those guys over there, and they got to knock down all the buildings. They got to come back. I'm tired just thinking about it. I don't know where all that money going to come from. What, is the Pentagon going to start spinning around a stripper pole? Where are they going to get the money for that? What, yard sales? How many VHS copies of City Slickers are you going to have to sell to afford war with Syria? Yeah, we anything positive. Help homeless people, help poor people. Where's the money going to come from? Although you got to give Trump some credit. He has decreased poverty in America, okay? He has. He did that by redefining poverty. Which is genius. There's a lot fewer poor people now. It's kind of like if you were walking along the side of a river and you saw a guy drowning, and you're like, oh, God, I got to help that guy. And you're like, or I could just say he's not drowning. He's just headed off to a watery vacation forever. Now I get to keep my loafers dry. It's wonderful. So we have what out of the remaining. A week ago, before the last few people dropped out, out of the remaining 8 people running for president, including Donald Trump, you had 3 billionaires. 3 billionaires. $1 billion is an incomprehensible amount of money. And is there a better example of oligarchs running our society than 3 billionaires running for president? And Bloomberg was, oh, Jesus Christ, that was hilarious. That was amazing. It was, he did serve to somehow make the other Democratic candidates look left-wing. That was incredible. All of a sudden, they seem like Mother Jones up there. The stop and frisk program, and did you see the leaked audio tapes that came out of him justifying stop and frisk? Oh God, that was beautiful. He said, well, we're trying to stop murder, and guess what? All murder is committed by minorities. And that is, I gotta say, thank you, Bloomberg. What you said may not be politically correct, all right? It may not be popular. It may not be true. But you had the balls to say it anyway. Good on you. When a white guy, the FBI statistics show when a white guy is murdered, 82% of the time, it's another white dude. All right? So it's completely false. He also said that, the reason we're arresting minorities for crimes like, marijuana and smaller things, drinking, loitering and stuff, because we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. Why do we do that? Because that's where all the crime is. Oh, really, Bloomberg? Is that where all the crime is? Is that where all the bribery goes down and tax evasion and the coke snorted on Wall Street? Is that where all the crime is, Bloomberg? Is that where the Johnson and Johnson's execs decided to keep asbestos-laden baby powder on the shelves? Did they go to the projects for that, Bloomberg? Is that where the Boeing execs decided to keep planes in the air that they knew were going straight into the ground? Is that where all the crime happens? Is that where all the black market Adderall is snorted under private school bleachers, Bloomberg? Is that where the illegal organ transplants take place? Is that where Monsanto decided to laminate our country and round up herbicide even though it causes your dick to fall off? Bloomberg. Is that where all the crime goes down? Is that where Coca-Cola decides new ways to advertise Coke, even though it's a mild toxin that if you drink enough of, it'll cause cancer of the tumors of the diabetes? Is that where all the crime happens, Bloomberg? No. Street crime doesn't hold a candle to corporate crime. And it's the way they define these arguments. And people don't even realize, people that even agree with what I'm saying now don't realize they're facilitating these arguments by continuing to call crime, like all crime is street crime. Street crime was even, in terms of a value amount, was even beat by civil forfeiture recently, meaning the cops were stealing more from people than people stealing on the street. Civil asset forfeiture. Like, it depends on how you define crime. But nobody thinks of the way these things are talked about.
Bad jokes, 103.
The only reason we wrap presents is for that 1 second of surprise, right as the person opens it. Couldn't we get the same effect by just throwing the gift at the person? And then they'd be surprised even if they knew what you were going to give them. I knew you were giving me an iPad, but not at that speed. How much time? Oh, shit. Fuck. I got to wrap up before we get to the book. Let's see here. So there's a class war going. I'm going to speed it up. Class war going on. That new study found that raising the minimum wage by $1 would have prevented 27,000 suicides over the past few years. Which makes sense because $7.25 an hour is not even enough to afford beer and cigarettes, in which case, why live? You know? Those are the two biggest food groups. $2 an hour would have saved 57,000 people from suicide, is the estimate. And here's an idea. Let's do that. Let's raise the minimum wage by $2 an hour, just a little bit, $2 an hour. And to get that money, we can tax the billionaires just a little bit more, just a little bit. And then that might have the added benefit of getting some of them to kill themselves. Win-win situation. Why don't you hear these proposals on the debate stage? And so, we got this class war. We have all this money for military, no money for the common good, which used to be a thing people would talk about, right? The common good. I don't even think you hear it talked about anymore. It's like the common what? The common good. Like you all get something out of it. Like we don't even have public water fountains anymore. Like you see public water fountains around, they're filled with spiders. Spiders live there now. People look at them like they're archaeological digs. Like people are showing their kids, look at this. It's a water fountain. This is where homeless people go to pee. There's no public transportation. It's all collapsing. The subway here in New York, I lived here for 12 years. The subway here in New York, it runs pretty well. It looks like the inside of like a 68 Chevy that was underwater for the past 10 years. The D.C. Metro, where I now live, runs. It looks beautiful, but it catches fire like once every couple weeks. And the posters, I'm not kidding, the logo of the D.C. Metro, it's posters everywhere. It says, D.C. Metro, back to good. Way to reach for the stars, D.C. Metro. Yes, back to good. What the hell was that meeting like? Here are the slogans we've come up with. We have back to good. We have D.C. Metro, only rarely the center of an Ebola outbreak. And D.C. Metro, at least you're not in Detroit. That's it. That's all we got. Our bridges are collapsing, which we have 60,000 structurally deficient bridges in this country, which, why would we not fix our bridges? Like that, it helps everyone, right? They don't discriminate. There's no sign that says only hot people get to go over this bridge. It just helps everybody get from here to over here. Why would we, structurally deficient doesn't mean it's collapsing today, but it doesn't mean they're back to good. It's insane. And we've created this like a brain parasite where anything that's for the common good, that's meant to help everybody, we're horrified by it, or at least it bugs us, right? Like, even though I'm saying this right now, I still have this inclination immediately when I see something that's like free for the community, I'm like, what the fuck's going on there? Really, I see like a community garden, and the guy's like, oh, just come on in and pick some basil. It's free. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Some sort of, is this sex trafficking? Is it sex trafficking? I'm keeping people back. What? Get your kids back. There's free broccolini in here. Something's going on. Meanwhile, if someone's selling something, I'm just immediately trusting of it, or like it's fine, someone could be selling, back alley, black market organs, and I'm like, he's an entrepreneur, he's trying to make some money, take care of his family. We're in this like selfish, consumerist, capitalist death spiral where our brains have all been infected by these idiot debates. On that note, the other day I almost stepped in a pile of shit. Then I changed my mind. Okay, that was the stand-up portion of the evening. Which I feel like just felt like my own therapy, but just getting shit off my chest. All right, I'm going to read some passages from the book. Some of you may know, some of you may not. The book has a bunch of different topics, and it covers a lot of things. I think, in a way, it covers dangerous ideas or ideas that are largely not allowed on the mainstream media. But anyway, I'm going to see how many I can get through here real quick. So this is the Well, I won't give it away. The title will give it away. I'll just start going. There are certain things the human mind is not meant to do. Our complex brains cannot view the world in infrared, cannot spell words backwards during orgasm, and cannot really grasp numbers over a few thousand. A few thousand we can feel, we can conceptualize, we can grasp. We've all been in stadiums with several thousand people. We have an idea of what that looks like and how sticky the floor gets. But when we get into the millions, we lose it. It becomes a fog of nonsense. Visualizing it feels like trying to hug a memory. We may know what $1 million can buy, and we may want that thing, but you probably don't know what a stack of $1 million bills would look like. You probably don't know how long it takes a minimum wage employee to make $1 million. That's why trying to understand, truly understand, that the Pentagon had $21 trillion of unaccounted-for adjustments between 1998 and 2015 washes over us like your mother telling you that your third cousin you met twice is getting divorced. It seems vaguely upsetting, but you forget about it 15 seconds later. Because what else is there to do? $21 trillion. But let's go back to the beginning for a minute. A couple of years ago, Mark Skidmore, an economics professor, heard Catherine Austin Fitts, former assistant secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, heard her say that the Department of Defense Inspector General had found $6.5 trillion worth of unaccounted adjustments just in 2015. Skidmore, being an economics professor, thought to himself, she means $6.5 billion, not trillion, because trillion means the Pentagon couldn't account for more money than the gross domestic product of the whole United Kingdom. But still, $6.5 billion of unaccounted for money is a crazy amount. So he went and he looked at the Inspector General's report, and he found something interesting. It was trillion! It was fucking $6.5 trillion of unaccounted for money in 2015 alone. And I'm sorry for cursing, but it's legally obligatory to preface the word trillion with fucking, okay? It is indeed way more than the UK's GDP. Let's stop and take a second to conceive how much $21 trillion is, which we can't because our brains short circuit, but we'll try anyway. The amount of money supposedly in the stock market is $30 trillion. The GDP of the United States is $20.5 trillion. Picture a stack of money. Now imagine that stack of dollars is only $1,000 bills. Each bill says $1,000 on it. How high do you imagine a stack of those bills would be if it were $1 trillion? It would be 63 miles high. Imagine you make $40,000 a year. How long would it take you to make just $1 trillion? Not 21, but just $1 trillion. Well, don't sign up for the task. It would take you 25 million years. Which sounds like a long time, but I hear after the first 10 million it kind of flies by. Know where the coffee maker is and everything. The human brain is not meant to think about $1 trillion. And it's definitely not meant to think about $21 trillion our Defense Department can't account for. These numbers sound bananas. They sound like something Alex Jones found tattooed on his ass by extraterrestrials. But here's something else important. This is from a Forbes article. This is one of the few articles in the mainstream press that's actually covered this. They said, quote, given that the entire Army budget in fiscal year 2015 was $120 billion, unsupported adjustments were 54 times the level of spending authorized by Congress. That's right, the adjustments with no explanation were 54 times the actual budget allotted by Congress. Well, it's good to see Congress is doing 1/54th of their job, which is more than I thought they did. So, pray tell, what did the OIG, the Inspector General, say caused all this unaccounted for spending that makes Jeff Bezos' net worth look like that guy jingling a tin can on the street corners? They said, quote, the report indicates that unsupported adjustments are the result of the Defense Department's, quote, failure to correct system deficiencies. Bullshit. Okay, to blame trillions of dollars on failure to correct system deficiencies, that'd be like me saying I had sex with 100,000 wild hairless aardvarks because I wasn't looking where I was walking. One or two, okay. More than that, it's a trend. At the end of the day, there are no justifiable explanations for the amount of unaccounted for, unconstitutional finances. All right, let's go to another one. Let's see, considering I'm running out of time, maybe I'll ask you what topic you want. I have something on the whistleblowers at the Pentagon. I have something on Venezuela and Wall Street and GDP. I'm hearing a lot of Venezuela, all right? We'll see. We'll see how much we can get through with. Here we go.
We have plenty of time.
No, they're kicking me out. All right, so I'm going to jump in the middle of it, but this is Venezuela. This is about Venezuela, where I talk about how our mainstream media acts like the Venezuelan people want Juan Guaido to be their leader. They want America to invade Venezuela. And I say, okay, but if this is what the Venezuelan people really want, then we should respect their wishes. The corporate media tells us this is what the people want, right? Except that it's not. According to a study conducted in 2019, 86% of Venezuelans would disagree with international military intervention. That's from Gray Zone's Ben Norton, he reported it. And 81% oppose the U.S. sanctions that have gravely hurt the nation's economy. So based on that, the Hinterlaces poll, most Venezuelans didn't know Guaido until recently. Most Venezuelans still support Maduro, even if they believe corruption in the government has increased. Whether you personally like Maduro or not doesn't matter. And most Venezuelans don't want military intervention or U.S. sanctions. Yet CNN and NPR and Fox News and the BBC and every other corporate outlet will have you thinking everyone is starving to death, on their knees begging for America's democracy bombs to rain down like dollar bills at a strip club. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe those people really need our help, and U.S. intervention will work out great, exactly like it did in Syria and Yemen and Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and Chile and Honduras and Haiti and Somalia and Libya and Guatemala and Nicaragua and Colombia and Panama and Fraggle Rock and those tree forts where the fucking Ewoks live. Now on to Wall Street. Now on to another bright and shiny topic. All right, so this chapter is about how the stock market is actually the dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme. And this is getting to the point where I talk about, well, it's just gambling. It's gambling, right? And 80% of stocks are owned by 10% of people in America, mainly the rich. But the stock market is gambling, and it's a Ponzi scheme. And some people make the point that if it were truly gambling, if the stock market were truly gambling, that would mean it's not predictable, right? Yet finance professionals claim they know how to analyze and predict the market. So you put your money in their greasy hands, and they help you grow your fortune. Well, multiple tests have been done to see whether the professionals know how to predict the market. And Ton Liu, who wrote a book on this that I referenced earlier, he referenced one contest. Oh, it was also covered in Forbes, by the way. The contest was between amateur students, finance professionals, and a cat named Orlando. who did all of his investing by tossing his favorite toy mouse onto an electronic grid. Orlando, the cat, won the competition. A cat was able to better predict the stock market, yet trillions of dollars in pensions and life savings are dumped into stocks by people hoping that whoever they trusted that money to is smarter than a cat. But they aren't. They aren't smarter than a cat. What other profession is that true for? Anything from math teacher to maintenance man to tennis player. If you were worse than a cat, you would be fired and they would get rid of the whole profession. They'd be like, cats can play tennis better, let's stop tennis. But it's true for financial advisors because the stock market is a Ponzi scheme. It's a racket, a hustle, a con, a fast one, a hose job, a crooked calzone. I think I made up the last one, but still. Yet in many cities, gambling is illegal. They'll send in armed police to break up poker games. You have to get a permit for a raffle, But when a sociopath in Chicago bets your entire pension and loses, there's no SWAT team, no arrests, because it's a legalized Ponzi scheme. All right, I got 5 minutes left for the book part, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So let's see, I'll pick more. I'll give a little bit, this is just a little bit of, I have a chapter in here about all of the things, and a lot of people don't know most of them, all of the things that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks helped reveal to the American people, to the people of the world, and just how revolting it is that he's being tortured right now for the crime of showing us the truth behind our empire. So here are I do the top 18, we won't get through all of them, but the top 18 things that Julian Assange revealed to change the world. There was, of course, the most well-known one is the collateral murder video revealed by Chelsea Manning, showing U.S. aircrew gunning down unarmed Iraqi civilians with an enthusiasm that you couldn't get from an 8-year-old winning a 5-foot-tall stuffed animal at a county fair. Between 12 and 18 innocent people were killed, 2 of them Reuters journalists. 0 people have been arrested for the collateral murders, yet Julian Assange has been arrested for revealing them. WikiLeaks brought us the Guantanamo Bay Camp Delta standard operating procedures, showing that many of the prisoners held in U.S. military detention facilities were completely innocent, and that some were hidden from Red Cross officials. I mean, it kind of makes sense, because if you're torturing someone, you don't want to get interrupted, you'll lose your place, you got to start all over again. None of the soldiers torturing innocent people at Gitmo have been arrested, yet Julian Assange has for revealing it. Not content with revealing only war crimes, WikiLeaks also revealed the secret Bibles of Scientology, which showed that aliens around the world, or aliens are inside all of us, or aliens cause indigestion, I don't really know, but no one's been arrested for perpetrating that nutbag cult, yet Julian Assange has for revealing it. And people think that he only revealed stuff about America, but that's not true. He revealed stuff about countries around the world. WikiLeaks posted videos of Tibetan dissidents in China fighting back, videos that were not allowed to be viewed in China. They revealed the Peru oil scandal. They revealed that Russia was spying on their own citizens' cell phones, the Mitten Report on toxic dumping in Africa, the Syria files showing the inner workings of the Syrian government. WikiLeaks displayed to a global audience a secret Australian, which is his home country, Supreme Court gag order that stopped the Australian press from reporting on a huge bribery scandal that involved the central bank and international leaders. Assange is hated by governments around the world. As much as they may like transparency about other countries that are not them, they get very upset when their own shit is revealed. It's kind of like how most people laugh heartily when a upskirt photo of a celebrity is posted online, but we don't want our own upskirt photos online. I feel the same way because I haven't shaved up there since Carter was in office. But as far... hit too close to home for this side of the room? All right, fair enough. I hear you. As far as I know, none of the political figures involved in these scandals have gone to prison for participating in them, but Julian Assange has for revealing them. Let's see. Skip down one. WikiLeaks showed us the highly secretive Bilderberg Group meeting reports. The Bilderberg Group is made up of incredibly powerful men and women who get together and decide how to rule over all of us street people. All of us that they wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. All the while sitting on thrones made from the bones of the babies of the non-believers. They're often accused of being lizard people, but really they're just regular old sociopaths with lizard skin that they purchased from a plastic surgeon in Malibu. I don't think anyone from the Bilderberg group is being tortured in solitary confinement right now, yet Julian Assange is for revealing who they are. All right. Let's see. Okay, I want to do one last one just to end on a positive note, and then we will get our special guest up here. This one is titled, Our Planet's Wonders Never Cease. Science found a fish without a face. I say science found a fish without a face because if you or I or any Homo sapien found a fish without a face, we would just post it on Instagram with a caption that's like, what the fuck? Followed by a second photo of someone enjoying a lovely blackened faceless fish taco. Then again, I guess all fish tacos are faceless fish tacos, or rather one hopes. So science found a fish without a face off the coast of Australia, and it turns out they found it once before 100 years ago, but that was we were a little less jaded back then, and it was just filed under a list titled, Holy fucking Christ, what else is out there? This fish has no discernible eyes or nose, and its mouth is down underneath its body, like near where its stomach should be. So all told, it basically looks like a very large back half of a fish decided to make a go of it alone. I have to admit that my first thought when confronted with a faceless fish is maybe we genetically combine it with Donald Trump, thereby creating a Captain Asshole without a face. This would hopefully make the number of idiotic, country-embarrassing things he says decrease by a certain number. I say his comments embarrass the country, but really they embarrass the world and perhaps the species and perhaps carbon-based life forms and perhaps physical matter as a whole. My second thought was, wow, what a lucky fish! It will never have to hear Justin Bieber, Brian Stelter, or Nancy Pelosi. That's incredible. And that's the best gig a conscious life form could get, with the possible exception of faceless fish taster. I assume they taste amazing because they've never had Justin Bieber tunes tainting their flesh. But my third thought is the one that matters. It is, isn't this planet breathtaking? Despite all we've done to it, despite all of our bullshit and pollution, despite all of our wars and aggression and killing, despite all of our crap, all of our nonsense, isn't Spaceship Earth awe-inspiring? It still has the ability to amaze and bewilder. There are still species we haven't found and animals designed in such a manner that they shock us. While we bicker over religion and race and money and television shows, while we fight over all of that crap, this poetic planet is still doing what it does best, being majestic. And it's our job to create a sustainable future in which we can keep appreciating that majesty, in which we can keep having our minds blown by fish without faces. All right. So, for a 10-minute Q&A, I'd like to bring up someone who's an actual journalist, not the funny kind of journalist. He's a good friend of mine. He's worked with fairness and accuracy in reporting, and you probably know him now from The Gray Zone. Please give it up for Ben Norton. All right, so you probably have to turn that on the bottom. No, it doesn't matter. All right, so I guess raise your hands.
Are we sitting or standing?
I'm going to sit. We'll sit. Anybody? Anybody got a question? Oh, yeah, and she has a mic if you want a mic.
Two questions, okay, real quick?
It depends on what the question is.
Oh, my dog. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Ben, I'm a big fan.
Okay.
What's your sort over... Oh, you too, sort of course. The answer.
It took me a minute to process what it said.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
I feel like Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
Right. Sort of on her possible endorsement, or I feel like I'm being gaslit.
Are you asking whether she's going to endorse or whether we like her?
Well, I don't like her.
We'll answer both, but I would like Ben to address Elizabeth Warren for a second. But why, Ben? Some people, she fooled a fair number of people in thinking she was just a slightly more moderate Bernie Sanders. Why is she not that?
Well, first of all, Elizabeth Warren voted for Ronald Reagan not once but twice in her 40s. She wasn't like a little kid. She voted for Reagan multiple times, was Republican until her 40s. And she's also just an opportunistic politician. And we saw actually a very similar situation in the past election. Don't forget that Elizabeth Warren didn't say anything during the primary. And as soon as Bernie Sanders dropped out, the week he dropped out, Elizabeth Warren immediately endorsed Hillary Clinton after saying nothing. So I think it's pretty clear that she'll wait right until the end. And whoever the candidate is, she'll endorse the candidate.
But most importantly, she was involved in a cookbook called Pow Wow Chow.
Oh, God.
In the 80s.
Which she plagiarized from the New York Times.
Which she had 5 recipes and like 3 were plagiarized from like a French cooking recipe. So she was claiming to be Cherokee and claiming they were Cherokee
She plagiarized
recipes.
her identity and then plagiarized the cookbook recipes.
So she has a problematic past.
By the way, Harvard University's newspaper, The Crimson, identified her as the first woman of color professor. So there you go.
That's a problem. Yes.
Hurry, come on, run, time's running out. Hi, so I want to ask a real investigative journalist. By the way, you did a really good interview with Randy on...
Thank you.
That's Randy Credico, folks.
About Julian Assange. And actually, there's one other thing, not to steal your question, but there's one other thing. WikiLeaks also leaked the copy of the TPP, which doesn't get enough attention.
That's in the book, Ben. You need to read the book. Yeah, they did. They were the only ones to reveal certain chapters of the TPP, meaning these trade deals that have immense power over all of us as citizens. They're the only place we get it. They're the only place we learned the things that allowed activists to say, here's what it's going to do, which then pressured Donald Trump to pull out of it. That's the only way we knew.
He always pulls out. Anyway...
If only his mom, whatever, but I mean, if only his dad had, but.
No, I want to know why no journalist is not jumping on the fact that we know that there were all these videotapes collected of all these famous people having sex with juveniles when they were running around with Epstein.
Stuff?
Yeah. Where are those videos? We know they were confiscated by the police, by the FBI, whatever it was. They're out there. If they killed
I
Epstein
have them on my
yeah.
shelf, but I agree they should be.
What a story, and nobody is covering it as if that's not the hottest story around.
Well, I've heard when you get a job at CNN, the first thing you get is you get a copy of all those videos. That's the secret.
They say here's what's going to happen if you say anything bad.
Exactly. But here's the one we took of you, so you can never. Well,
but
the real answer is I think the CIA and intelligence agencies have a lot of those videos.
Epstein was connected to Mossad, so. Yeah.
And FBI. In fact, the FBI said in a now declassified document, they said that he was working with the FBI, and we know, of course, that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was himself working closely with Mossad and actually died in mysterious circumstances. And I mean, this is like a never. Yeah, exactly. And don't go on if you have like a weird political history, don't go on a boat alone with your friends. It's a bad idea. But I'll say anyone who's interested,
or a small solo plane or whatever. Like a small
exactly.
Plane.
Yeah. Anyone who's interested in this, I'll plug. Check out True Anon. If you want some Epstein brain, I mean, there's a good podcast devoted to this about, I mean, just how deep it goes. By the way, Bloomberg was close friends with he had 5 numbers in Epstein's black book and has photos with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Epstein had 5 of Bloomberg's phone numbers in his black book, and he was also connected to the other guy who owned Victoria's Secret. What's his name? Les Wegner?
Yeah, Wexler, yeah.
So why don't you pursue that story? Would it be hot?
Well, I mean, a lot of us are, but it's hard to because, like I said,
not a lot of people are talking, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're all trying, but I mean, there's a reason that there's very little known about it because this stuff is very tightly controlled, and because, as Alex Costa said, he said very clearly that he was told to drop the case with Epstein because, quote, Epstein belonged to intelligence.
I mean, we would know a lot more if Epstein just hadn't killed himself right when those two guards simultaneously fell asleep and right when those cameras turned off. It really does suck that that happened all like that.
And right when one of the guards wasn't there. I mean, man. And also with a paper thin sheet. I can't even speak today. Paper thin sheet. Oh man, I didn't know I could break my neck with a sheet.
Well, no, but he broke the bones in the neck that rarely break during hanging from like a bed or whatever. You'd have to hang. You'd have to be dropped 2 stories to break those bones. Anyway, let's move on to another question. Yes, sir.
60 Minutes came up with the autopsy photos. Have you seen them?
Or let's move on to the same topic.
Have you seen them?
Yeah.
What's your reaction to it? And I was wondering.
He had so many sheets. As if people seen those photos, there's like 80 sheets. So maybe it is true. Maybe it is true.
Well, there's one in particular of Epstein's neck. Have you noticed that one?
We're going to need a question at some point other than have you noticed things.
The thin cut line around his neck. And,
well, I'll say one comment on this. There was a recent poll, and it showed different Democratic primary supporters, and it showed by candidate what percentage of people think that Epstein killed himself. And one of the best signs is that the vast majority of Bernie Sanders supporters are like, nah, that guy did not kill himself. And Tulsi Gabbard supporters. And then Buttigieg supporters are like, he definitely killed himself.
I want to. You've had your hand up for a while. I want to go to you in the back.
To be covered very much in the media is Joe Biden's apparent dementia, and they don't seem to want to touch it.
The mainstream media, yeah. The alternative media definitely is talking about that. I mean, it's because you can tell during a lot of those debates he doesn't seem to actually know what's going on. He seems very bewildered. He can hardly get. And we've all heard the clips of crazy crap we've said. But I think George Galloway put it best. He was on my show this past week. He said during those debates against Trump is going to play with him like a mouse, like a cat with a mouse. Like it's just going to be batting him around. Because do you really think Joe Biden's going to know how to respond when Trump just it turns into a roast comic up there? I mean, it's going to be.
In the middle of the debate, he's going to be like, where are we again?
Yeah.
What's going on?
And then his eye explodes and his teeth come out.
I'm running for Senate because he actually did that, by the way.
We have time for one more question, by the way.
One more question.
No pressure.
All right. Yes, sir.
Just reading in the Times today that Eric Prince is involved with this organization Vertigo or Investigo.
Yeah, Project Veritas.
Veritas, right, and that they've been infiltrating, hey guys, progressive meetings and groups. What do you think of that?
One of them came to Redacted Tonight, and it didn't reveal who he was till someone figured it out afterwards. But after we filmed Redacted Tonight, which if you're ever in DC, we film it's free to come and be in our audience, and anyone can come. And afterwards, we were getting drinks, and this guy was standing there, but he was holding his bag like this, like angled up at our faces. and he walked up, he was like, "Hey Lee, long time fan," and just immediately goes, "What do you think about Pizzagate? They're all fucking children, right?" So, and I was just like, "You're very strange," and I walked away with it. But later, someone was grilling him to the point that he admitted and kind of left or whatever. But yeah, you should always assume that's out there. Where you're always if you're gonna speak out against war and speak out against corporations, speak out against the American empire, you should assume pretty much everything you're doing is being filmed in one way or another. It doesn't always need to be by the FBI or the CIA. It could just be an asshole who's putting shit on YouTube. So, just you gotta be ready for that.
And there was one comment that O'Keefe made, the right-wing tool who runs that, and he said there was a private training on the ranch that Eric Prince owns, his family ranch, and at this private training, they were learning all these tactics that intelligence agencies use, and then after O'Keefe tweeted, because he's such a smart guy, he tweeted, Project Veritas is going to be the next big intelligence agency, which for me is a perfect comment because it shows that what he's doing is what intelligence agencies do. This is a privatized one, but intelligence agencies are just organized crime networks run by the state, and he's doing what the FBI has done for decades through COINTELPRO, which is spy on leftists and try to destroy leftists and labor unions. They're spying on labor unions too.
Right, and kind of connected to that is the fact that Project Mockingbird, like it used to be a thing, like CIA had Project Project Mockingbird was revealed, it was a scandal.
Used
oh my God.
to,
Oh
but
my
certainly
God.
isn't anymore.
Hold on, let me get to the conclusion, Ben. That was going to be the point, that it was this big scandal, like, oh my God, the CIA has infiltrated mainstream media. They're pretending to be mainstream media. And then they don't need this project anymore because they just outwardly go and are the mainstream media. I mean, Anderson Cooper worked at the CIA for 2 summers. Like, these are, they out, and then they'll interview CIA people, and those are their commentators and their contributors. And so it used to be, it had to be secretive. Now it's just up front, hey, we're the CIA. Here's what you need to think, America.
They even run for president.
Yeah, they run for president. Yeah, thank you, Buttigieg. So we're wrapping up. I'm going to be here signing books. Most of your books are signed, but if you want me to throw a name in there, I will. Also, we have more books for sale. Also, I have my old book for sale from 2012. Good for book sales, bad for the world. Nothing's changed. So don't worry about it seeming old. You just got to cross out Obama in 3 places and write Trump. But I'll have that. I also have USBs of my last stand-up comedy special, and I'll be up here. But please give it up for Ben Norton.
Give it up for Lee.